Pencil.
Only full staff. It's Monday on Today. Chris Quinn on the Newcom and the Plain Dealer. We have Tassi and Laura John Sweek, and then Nadi. Welcome all. Very different kinds of on this Monday podcast. Partisan hatred caused to kill his.
That is a really great asking for that Cliff Pinkard put up over weeks ago. That his neighbor, obviously, wife said he's killed him because he's just going to be like, what? John talked about this, and he answered, but he has a lot of really the story published on cleveland.com. Suspect in this case is 26. He was living in the small town county. Very concerned university is. That's where I went to. Next door neighbors, 43-year-old, just cutting wood in the yard. Combs told investigators reasons both of them were but that question, just talked to people. He talked to and he said basically not so much hatred, less full, if angry. He's never seen.
Yeah, definitive. And this guy had health issues of really what triggers it. It's odd. Had two reasons, but the what you just said, the sheriff rage, and he doesn't know what Americans have been rage.
Yeah, and the idea most people are going to kill the different political party. This could push the fringe edge, right? And that's what probably he's been accused of stabbing or did not die. 911 call, King's insane. He had subs. So obviously not quite, but the Butler County to John, she said the incident for community on Democrats around the county have been hesitant to display yard signs or bumpers. It's during the become so vitriol.
Right. You go party because you went that way, but now it's identity not with me, you're a gimme, which I think politicians like Jim Jordan people into that fit of passion. Really, he was killed because moving into
well, you look at the Paul Pelosi, it's just these things that you're like, I come to this. And an expert at polarization and extremism didn't know that existed. Fox News grandpa is probably someone who thinks is the temperature of polarization on the edge will fall out of sense.
Right. People to begin with are the one manipulate into these. Today in Ohio, between Pennsylvania that appear to have a lot, but Michigan and Pennsylvania recent election. While Lisa, we did some work. It was an insightful story. Andrew Tobias.
Looks like there are four where we differ from. First, let's set the table that here in Ohio, the statewide races, the majority in the state legislature, thirds of the U.S. House, Michigan, they won what they called, they got the governor's majority in Bennett. This is the first four, and they also enshrine the Michigan Constitution. Democratic wins in the governor, they may have a majority in the P does control. So first, there was in rural and works to be Democratic strong, picked up Democrats, which was accelerated by the election, and the Ohio River, we read. So Democratic, suburban areas, it's still Ohio. Also, the population mix that changed in 60 years. Percent of Ohio votes came from towns of 20,000. And we don't have a mega in Pennsylvania, which is 6 in population. Grand Rapids is, 2 Democratic Michigan. And, in Akron area, we only have 3, only 2.1 million. So, we're conservative politically as well. Professor David, Ohio is the mother of president, been Republican, so, has controlled the 95, except for 2006-2008 wide, part. There was also a lack by national Dems. Specifically, they didn't think that Ohio swing state anymore. So there's in Wisconsin, they had to help Democrats there, but Ohio, because they need to help Ryan is what there's a lot of other things.
Yeah, I asked for the story and results, and I thought Andrew, great way. The college education and a big city. We have a bunch of, Cleveland was a big go, but it's been vacuumed out. Lost that Detroit fill. But I also think, he points this out, the Democratic elite and utter free fall. Part of the reason of that is has changed, and Democrats tired old ways and they can't end up with strong candidates. Republicans have really strong candidates. Don't. And together, it's good. The college education thing where we lag the other states, right?
Right. So a number of people with college just under 29. Again, it's 30%, 2.3%. Average of people with voting 3%. Unions too, because collar workers moving and excuse me. AFL-CIO Rosenthal says that they ran a union where they former union members, but they didn't do it in Ohio, in the other states, Wisconsin. So it seems like a lot of Ohio as a state.
Yeah, it's worth your time. And this is today. Nursing homes gave quite candidates in the latest. The nursing homes used to be, because they used to control as much as First Energy, gain from all of.
Well, the nursing homes are costs and pandemic supply chain is pretty much like add to that the fact that during the deadly outbreaks in nursing rated that trend toward homes rather than living in congregate viruses like COVID pose a threat to the at the fact that it showed that 3 dozen residents in jeopardy during their standards of care and control measures. Struggling to say the least. And they're relying on state and federal dollars, around $7.6 billion nursing homes, and lawmakers provided facility $100 million, and COVID addressed the rising labor costs. So this year, individual facility attributed more than 1.4 state races in Ohio to campaign site, almost entirely to Republican, like Lisa just pointed, state government. Makers are now considering legislation and hundreds of millions to basically during this difficult. Us Republican leaders haven't read the package that's under consideration. Provide more for facility, and according to House Speaker, 3 trade organizations have policies that would increase incentivizing certain been pretty weak, and say a lot of the quality have experienced are because been underfunded for years. Those incentives would ensure to nursing homes actually true, right? But another that this investment in nursing trees that provide care. Otherwise, those options and it'll homes. So it's kind of a politics.
Here's the problem, though. Say that they need this money that you described. If we lived in a world where the legislature and say, hey, guys, state of things, we really can't, we need some more money. And then there's hearings and they to them. But no, hey, we're going to donate to you, and then you're going to raise this huge. They need the money, or whether to steal would be so much cleaner. Donated the money, because then this is about what's right.
Completely, yeah, of course. What is politics? I mean, this is special at work here. So
Bill Seitz is active in the flag.
Yeah, right. And Jake did a great job. Are the great, the big. So
I mean, there's a long history of homes getting there. So. Everybody, this one is this just going to be able that funded campaigns. Another great story that you ring dealer and on Cleveland today in Ohio. Fresh off publishing revelations about his Ohio's last Democrat re-election. It happened again someday. Gives morning.
That's not sure how much stuff from 1982 and it had corruption problems. Democrats just need to build in all 88 counties. That's to do. He says that opens the door for Democrats to. He says he believes in a variety of issues. If that's enough, right? Obviously, Democrats can get attention. Right? Celeste says Ohio's still by either party. Now, remember, he lives in Colorado. He says the Republican effort for it and pursue an state legislature, Democrats providing a strong that part.
No, they've got to get some informed, legitimate strategy. Off from the gubernatorial this year, the Democrats, they had no strategy. And even Ryan, who ran a pretty brilliant, wasn't enough to get across the thing.
If you can run a practice like Tim Ryan and broad array and really agenda, he wasn't now progressive and he's still about the same kind of margin. We know that any statewide right now.
Well, and even then, it's today in Ohio. The Cleveland Clinic's role in it give us a greater dementia, which is very much that we think about with Alzheimer's.
The Cleveland Clinic is a creation of 7 institutes dementia with Lewy bodies. And so the Cleveland Center for Brain Health National Data Registry, we were awarded an addition. The original grant was $20. So this $10.7 million years to find the clinical blood and spinal fluid. So these and catch it in its early. Talk about what Lewy body very closely related to. Lewy bodies is a protein that developed affected by Parkinson's. Thinking, memory, these are the symptoms of dementia. There is treatment. They're said between Alzheimer's. It's about 1.4 million. If you have Alzheimer's, you get where you are, Lewy body dementia, pay attention. You don't follow attention span. Talk about things that never Lewy body dementia, hallucinations, but they're hallucinations and have them. And they also have symptoms, tremors, stooped posture. These are found in patients, so you can see the relations. Leverins with the Cleveland principal investigator phase, they gathered 9,000 in Indiana, and then they said, find those blood and spinal early detection tests.
A former colleague of mine from Oliver, who went on to .com, has just quite moving now about body dementia. It's about what that. I don't think I've read anything that well. If you search Oliver, you can read it. It is lying.
And it's a different form of Alzheimer's treatment and a different there.
Earlier, they squandered millions of stimulus. The county government officials reserve $50 million for the incoming. That would be Chris Ronayne this month. Then last in the deal, lay low.
Yeah, the battle build a new jail plot twist, which meaning county executionship with the county council. So yeah, as council and they had granted them of ARPA money to squander. Initially pledged in March $3.6 million to Alex. This week, they're taking up this row that millions they had set aside, commit them to the Justice Fund. That money is solely to fund for construction of a county jail and court. President Purnell Jones acknowledged that is to get his act together around the forward. Ronayne during against building the jail, and of course, acting the will of the next county members' cold feet that they have that site and agreed to put in takes office. Her use of ARPA money then say a dog park or rebuilding a golf course, clubhouse in Parma. It does sneaky to go about it.
Being critical of a $50 million jail and justice center complex way to renege on been their idea. They're not smart enough from outside. But with the way they've squandered dollars on their little projects, back, by the way, and the way they sank into a 50-part project, I mean, they way massive amount here, and taxpayers are reason Nan Baker with an opponent lost. We do need the money for the state, what sounds like incoming administration's spending this money. If they get and they haven't spent it, spend this money in time, we're going to lose. We could spend it on. Don't you think they would do it?
Close to the deadline, are they getting money to try to
Yeah, we desperately and really they've done such a terrible editorial board a week ago for all the way without having any for the jail. And we'll take the 50 million. Game has changed, and we'll put it.
I mean, yes, it's better. Ronayne should get to what they pledged to do. Leave it. They should honor that. They don't get to squander and then say, now we're going to safeguard this, commit, the next exec use, when not any of their own slush funds. You can't have it both ways. Investing in pet translate into vote while using them appear to be investing in this work. Really, if you really care about it, or the jail.
But this topic to the podcast today in Ohio. Is the end of a comedy years a big deal? A big deal 2 decades. A splash did we see for Ohio's Tom Batuic, Funky Winkerbean. Laura.
I feel this is a beloved cartoon. Is that he's still doing crap. My parents have always talked to my mom about the ending of she is feeling and he's ending this December, winding down the story. So he's dropped hints that the sale of them in the comic strip, and so they're going to have revisit that people have come to. Will get some close over at the end of the year.
Lisa, do you read this?
And yes, and it was kind of like when I was so it was kind of like my connection. They would mention Ohio or the Ohio in the strip. Funky Winkerbean. It's one of the where the character,
well, it jumped from high school, which they were in adulthood. They never went to.
I just remember at the end of the hall with the machine gun, which I don't think you'd want in this. Look, the big moving out of cancer. People were in tears over that. I think he put out I get it. My wife is not sure to let me know. Troll if cartoon tire. Did a lot of people.
I don't think they were ever at the. Brenda Kane did get an interview with Tom Batuic. I want to hear in his own voice. I would definitely go read those, like an end of an era. And I'm like, what? So what happened last week with that one? Parade magazine.
No.
Well,
it's the
print,
end.
Right.
Magazine. Okay. Don't get me in the Ians today in Ohio. For anybody listening to this podcast who is flying some Cleveland Hopkins International, it sounds like this is Gordy who once got boxed arrived to New York. As worrisome should this be?
Because parking will be Cleveland Hopkins Airport holiday travel season. 60,000 passengers in the next 10 days ending next. They have 200 for out of commission 20 space garage because that project is gear. Acting airport says we've already hit claims in recent weeks. Airport.com for Andes. Hopkins 6,500 parking. John Glenn Columbus Airport and Pittsburgh International we're already way short. Of the Sheraton Hotel plus new spaces, but they will be able to use at the hotel already. Kramer is saying, drop you off, consider off-site fast park and park place. Chances are you're not.
This all gets back to the entire garage that nobody could understand. Do some repairs to it. They had adequate parking. It's another reason they have a regional authority to be able to manage this thing, not have parking in it. Juggling. Let's end on a high note. Cleveland's, let me ask this again. Cleveland's Christmas version. Where did this character go when it went away? We heard from some people that said, go away. We're missing.
Yeah, so Mr. Jingling returns this season, and he'll be back. He's packed. He'll have a peer action at the IX Center and ceremony on November 26th. Has the whole schedule of a.com. But she also Jingling, and you're right, this is in Northeast Ohio. Christmas Eve in 1950, entertained kids both on Captain Penny show, downtown Hallie's department. The backstory of this character, I never knew this. I mean, I remember he was a key in Kingdoms help when he lost his key toys. That's that. Yeah. Well, so the first jingling were played by Cleveland Ellis until he died, at which point the managing director, Carl Mackey, took over. And then in 1960 was the producer and director over and years. And then Hallie, Mr. Jingling, and then went to Santa Land department store and obtained the character's holiday appearances at Tower 5, and he said 1,000. So when Santa loses his buzz with the rest of us do and swearing up,
why does he need keys? When the answer to my question is this is Cleveland's sweetest day, something nobody's ever
grew up
heard.
here, and I literally till I worked for the plain dealer. Is this guy? I mean,
to the 60s to really like I do.
I feel though where they're like rerun the same age as Laura, and I don't know.
Beanie Babies.
like my parents are Canadian, so they never would have been still going.
That was an inside joke. In Ohio, that rest. We will be doing one special episode on Wednesday. Thanks, Layla. Thanks, Laura. Listening. Come on back into the news.